Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to another bite-sized review. Today we'll be taking a look at the final film in the Indiana Jones trilogy. They never made a fourth one. Wink. This is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. This was released in 1989, and it stars once again Harrison Ford. We also have some returning faces, and it's about 2 hours, I believe. This is the first in the series to be rated PG-13. Ooh, scandalous, yeah. And this one is awesome. I love this one just as much as Temple of Doom and Raiders of the Lost Ark. In fact, I will switch between the three. In fact, I believe every couple years or so I rewatch this series. The Indiana Jones series in particular, if Star Wars didn't exist, this series would be my favorite movie series. It's only second place, but it's a pretty high second place. So The Lost Crusade, it's a great adventure. It does bring some back. It brings back some familiar faces. We have Denholm Elliott once again back as Marcus Brody from Raiders, and John Rhys Davies back as Sala, Indy's trustful companion. There we go. And other than that, everyone else pretty much is new. We have Alison Doody playing Dr. Elsa Schneider, who is another fellow adventurer. Well, she's not an adventurer. She's more like a scholar. And we also have Sean Connery, of course, as Henry Jones Sr. Who can forget that legendary casting? That is fantastic. Casting him as Indy's dad, James Bond himself, who Steven Spielberg, who directs all three of these, all three of the original trilogy, or all four of the Indy movies. Sorry, had to mention the fourth one. Spielberg was inspired by the James Bond movie series. He always wanted to direct one. The closest he got was the intro to Temple of Doom, which is heavily inspired by Bond. And so he got inspired by doing Indiana Jones by watching James Bond. And so how appropriate should it be that Indiana Jones's father would be the original James Bond, which is a brilliant idea and a brilliant way to kind of acknowledge the inspiration. This movie is utterly fantastic from start to finish. You've got the opening scene with River Phoenix as a young Indy, and it shows a bit of his Boy Scout history, the way he got his fear of snakes, his scar on his chin, his fedora, his adventuring skills, and he gets, of course, the Cross of Coronado, then Fedora and his men steal it. And so the leader, Fedora of that gang, of course, in the beginning, he gives Indy his fedora, which he ends up carrying with him throughout his adventures. And at the time, this was the final Indiana Jones adventure. As the title says, Last Crusade. Crusade means adventure, so that means it's the last one. Supposedly, unfortunately, the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out and ruined all of that. Literally, the ending of this movie couldn't be more perfect. You know, the sunset, all four characters riding off into the sunset. You've got Sala, Marcus, the Joneses riding off into the sunset. It's the perfect ending. Why change it? I have no idea. But yeah, that was unfortunate. We'll get to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull when we get to that. But Last Crusade, it has so many great things. It has airplane chases. It's got a car chase. It's got a boat chase, a tank chase. It's got a motorcycle chase, a train fight. I mean, train chase, I should say. This movie is absolutely incredible. There's not a moment that I'm bored. It's great. You've got the search for the Holy Grail, which is amazing. It's pretty well known. It's pretty well known. Let's say. And so Indy is tasked with finding his father, who is trying to get the Holy Grail, and a man named Donovan, who is played by Julian Glover. He basically hires Indy's dad to help him find the Holy Grail, and so he brings him into the mix, and then Indy is forced to join the hunt because his father goes missing, and so he ends up, the Joneses have to work together to get the Grail. So it's like this chase all around the world. They go to Venice, and they're in Utah in the beginning. Then they go to the desert I forgot where the last part of the film is, like the desert location. I forgot where that's at. Um, yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, you can look it up. So it's great. There's so many great things in this film. The opening is fantastic. Indy hasn't lost his a single bad thing about him. He's still the same Indy. He's learned a little bit since Raiders. He's not so brash. He's more wiser this time around. Even more so than in Temple of Doom. Obviously, Temple of Doom is a prequel, so it kind of makes sense. So he's not the same as he was there. He's not as quick to go after the artifact. He's more reluctant this time around, which makes sense. The Holy Grail is like this big thing. It's not like this, you know, tiny thing. He's still kind of a skeptic. Like we do get some nods to the Ark of the Covenant, which is great. You remember that. Um, and so I like that Sala and Marcus are back. That kind of feels like this reunion, which is nice. I like the villains; they're great. We've got some great villains. We have Colonel Vogel, and then we have Walter Donovan, who, spoilers, ends up being the villain. He's the one who wants the Grail, and he brings Indy and his father into it. And so, spoiler, um, Dr. Elsa Schneider ends up being a Nazi. Plot twist. That was actually a pretty big plot twist when I first watched this. And it's meant to be. It's a big thing. I think it's funny that both Joneses fall in love with her and they don't realize that she's a bad guy, or I think that's funny. Um, I love every scene in this. I never get bored with any of the original Indy films. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, we don't talk about that, but the original movies are amazing. Like, the action is fantastic. The music, once again, is amazing. And there's even new music this time, which is great. And I think the best part about this film is definitely the action. Although the character moments between Indy and his dad are especially nice, because we didn't get that in the other films. We didn't get a lot of his past in Temple or Raiders, but here we get a lot more of his like background with his father, and like their relationship is not the greatest, which is kind of interesting. And we see that they still have this great dynamic. Well, obviously, um, here they're forced to be, work together, but it's kind of implied that Indy's mom left the family, and then Henry started becoming a lot more strict, and then Indy left, and so that's kind of interesting, the backstory. And so they get to learn to trust each other and to love each other at the end, because Henry almost dies. So he gets healed by the Grail. They end up having this perfect sunset ending. And it's just great. I love the cinematography too. All three Indy films have great like scenery shots, but this one I feel like in particular has the best looking scenes, because they're actually in Venice. They're actually in the desert. It's not like fake, which I feel like Crystal Skull does so much wrong, but The Last Crusade does so much right. Like, it's a great ending, but yet you could watch it and you don't need you don't need to watch the other two. They should have just ended it here. I mean, it's a perfect ending. Harrison Ford was getting a bit older by this point. You could tell a little bit in his face. He didn't look that old, but you could tell he was kind of experienced, um, which is, it's just a part of life. But I love every character. Even the villains, they die, of course, gruesome deaths, as all Indy villains do. And I think that's great. I think it's rated PG-13. I think it's a good rating. There is some violence, mostly at the end. That's when all the violent stuff happens. It's at the end in the temple with the Grail. I think the special effects for this movie hold up extremely well, especially for an 80s film. It looks so great. Especially, I think the best scenes are at the end with the actual Holy Grail, when we actually get to see it and we see the effects of it. And I love the scene where Indy is tested by the trials of the Grail. It's just so cool. The stuff is so great. Um, I don't think there's a bad scene. There is not a single bad scene in this film. I have no complaints. The Last Crusade gets a 10 out of 10. I have no problems with any of these original films. Um, I guess my only complaint would be, why did they not end it here? Would have been a perfect way. I guess they did end it technically here for a long time. Um, but yeah, I don't. I guess honestly, there's so many favorite scenes. If I had to pick one, it's probably honestly, it's you know what? It might be the opening scene with River Phoenix. That is just brilliant. um, yeah, there's so many great scenes. I like that there's a lot of callbacks to Raiders as well, which is nice. And I love the action. That's the best part. Um, and everyone does a fantastic job. Even the small characters do really well. Um, so yeah, I like that it's the Holy Grail. It's a very recognizable artifact. Everyone pretty much knows the Holy Grail. I think it was a great way to like end the adventures, even though it wasn't the end. Um, but yeah, the Last Crusade, I have no problems. It's flawless. I have no problems with this. I haven't watched it nearly as much as Temple. I watched Temple of Doom the most. I don't know why. I think it's like the pacing maybe, but I love the Last Crusade. I'll watch any of the original films any day. But yeah, fantastic. Um, I thought it was especially cool how they brought Indy's dad in, and it's kind of old characters, but there's a new story. I love it, just great. But next we're gonna have to talk about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Yippee! I'm not excited about that at all. I really don't like that film. When it first came out, I really liked it, but then over the years, it's just bad. It's bad. It's just terrible. Like if it was just a generic action film, it would be good. But if since it's an Indiana Jones movie, it's bad. It's not a good film. But we're gonna have to talk about that. And also I'm very excited for Indy 5. I'm just hoping it's not a train wreck. So yeah. Let me know what you guys think of the Indy trilogy. Which one's your favorite? The Last Crusade is a lot of people's favorite. That and Raiders. But yeah, I love all three. Let me know what you think about this series. Um, and yeah, thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned for the future review of Indy 5, and I'll do Indy 4. And hope you like that. Hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks so much for watching. Um, Stay tuned for more movie reviews, which are coming very soon. Take care. Have an awesome rest of your day. And I will see you in the next one.